We're starting with the one and only Sharon Grech from Benjamin Moore. Hi, honey. So you're very
That's
good
what we're talking about.
You're very good for matching your sets, and today is no exception because we're going to talk about the color green. So a lot of people, you know, maybe green paint is not top of mind for them, but there are so many different greens.
There are.
Such a huge variety that you can use in so many different ways in your decor.
Absolutely. It is I think it's a very timeless color because it's so versatile. And often you don't think it's green. And when I showed my 9-year-old daughter this board, she's like, that's not green, it's yellow, it's gray, green, and a bit of blue. I'm like, okay.
It's green.
So but that's the thing, right? Green is that color that's very neutral. Our eye can actually see more greens than any other color.
Oh, really?
And so I think that's why it's a comfort color. So we love green. When we see outside, like after this winter, it wasn't even that bad. When you start seeing signs of spring, you get really excited. You get really happy.
Okay.
So I wanted to really talk about how there are so many variations of green, how diverse it is. So you've got the really warm greens, those yellow, acidic, kind of the modern ones, like Wales green.
That's awesome.
My all-time favorite, agave.
Nice.
Used it many times, love it. And then you get a little more neutral, like Kittery Point
green.
green.
I didn't even see this one.
I know, isn't it pretty?
So it's almost like a mint, but it's got a gray undertone.
It's got a gray undertone. Because it's in the historic palette, it's not as mint or as wild as something like this.
Right.
And then again, Urban Nature, which is a really beautiful green from the Affinity palette, which again are very harmonious grayed tones.
Nice.
So I also had some help with my friends at Kravit to get what's new in green fabric. So I included some of those in the board, and it's just so exciting. Like, look at this fantastic pattern where you get the really acidic greens, and then you've got that tealy blue green. So
lovely.
A lot of times mixing green, when you want to do a monochromatic scheme, people automatically think just gray or beige. You can do a wonderful monochromatic scheme with greens because you've got all this diversity. So I also threw a couple of inspiration shots from photography that we've done at Benjamin Moore. So you see this green and yellow. This was actually Stokes Forest green and Wales green.
Okay.
So you've got both of those in that space with the rug that kind of pulls it together, and then it feels a little boho when you put in the heavily textured wool and textiles.
Right.
And then an inspiration shot from my trip to Malta recently.
Oh, nice.
Just like an old sort of worn down green door, and I just love that contrast. And again, it reminded me a lot of this green and also teal ocean. And this
is so blue.
Isn't that
blue green, I love that green.
I'm going to call you Megan.
That's
what she said.
Right.
It's blue, mommy.
It's so blue.
But it is. It's very much when you take green and you go right to the yellow side of green, or you go right to the blue side, and that's where it becomes blue-green, right? So it depends what you put it with. But again, I found this lovely fabric from Kravit that had it's almost more of a teal, and they've got a navy blue in there and a grayed green, kind of like the misted green. So again, grays are so popular still. We're always talking about that. So you can get gray with an undertone of green, and you get into the world of something like this cooler misted green, or you can go really sort of olivey where it's gray-green.
Anything natural, we always say, it's always going to look good. And you know that the natural world has plenty of examples of green out there.
Great
so
spot for
bringing that
inspiration.
in
Exactly.
to your home
And
is
before we walk to the set, I wanted to call out that I painted the backdrop Plantation. This is a green, very gray, very, very neutral. And actually I use that as the wall color for our little vignette. So just to remember how that kind of works as a backdrop with all of those other greens.
Right.
So you can think about green as a neutral. As you were saying, Tracy, it's nature's neutral, right?
It's nature's neutral, so it's always going to work. And here it actually looks a lot different.
Does it look different?
It depends on what you're putting on it, right?
It's all about context, and all color is like that. You can't think about a color just on its own. You really have to think about what you're putting it with, because it'll look completely different in your house than in my house with the different lighting and different furnishing. So so I used Plantation in an eggshell finish, so it's got a little hint of a sheen, but I wanted to pull out from that warm neutral yellow. I fell in love with this photograph at LT with that black graphic street kind of industrial feel, but that almost teal green, again, that kind of pops out from it. And again, mixing in little bits of black can make green feel different. So we've got this slate console table with the thin black and steel legs. So again, it becomes a little more urban feeling, whereas if you took that to the white side with something like Plantation, it would feel very country.
Very country. This table's something
gorgeous?
else.
I know.
Did you say LT?
It's LT.
Man, that's
and it's a
nice.
slate top with the black and steel legs.
Oh,
so I just love it. It would look good with any color, but love it with the green. And then you know what? When I was at LT looking at furniture, I saw this. It's one of the first things we saw in the store, and it's also I don't know how it'll show up on camera, but it's like that grayed teal color.
Yeah,
so
it
again,
is.
we're mixing in some of those blue greens, and then this cushion that has, I'm going to show it to you, Tracy, because it's just so fun. You got to see it close up. It's got, again, a blue green. It's got a real sort of foresty green, and then that fun bit of metallic. So it makes green feel a lot more contemporary.
That's right. There's a little bit of disco going on.
Yes,
I like it when you want just like a little touch of glam. This will do it.
Isn't this it? So you could absolutely be inspired from that and even bring in more sort of silver glam pieces. But we kind of thought, let's bring some real green.
Right.
My stylist who helps me always wants me to put plants in, and I'm like, no, we're doing a green story. I had to have a gorgeous
It makes
plant.
sense, but plants are beautiful in decor. They warm up a space. My problem is I kill them.
Yeah, so do I.
Is that real or faux?
This is real. This is from
That's
Sharon
real?
Nurseries.
Oh
It's
my
real.
gosh.
But you know what? It's so big, it's going to talk to you. Water me. Water me.
Water me.
You're not going to forget about it.
It's not going to look good in here if I die.
Exactly.
So please give me
bring
water.
some real green in.